Hey everyone, this is Tristan with Wasatch Herbals, and this is one video in a series that we are doing on cannabidiol or CBD. Now, you've probably heard of CBD. It's become very popular recently. Everyone's talking about it, everyone's taking it, and we are also very excited about it. It has a lot of wonderful potential, but we are starting to see that a lot of people don't have as much information as they really ought to before jumping in and spending money on it and using it. So this video series is intended to help you become more familiar with CBD, more specifically where it comes from, the mechanics of how it works, and what it's capable of doing, and really the best ways to get it and use it. That's really extremely important because it is a very new thing. It's only really recently kind of exploded in popularity, and there's just a lot of different sources out there, and they're not all created equally. So hopefully by the time you've finished this video series, you'll feel more educated on what CBD is. You'll feel more empowered as a consumer of it, and you'll be able to get more benefits out of it. So this video is on sort of the chemical part of what CBD is. Now you are already probably familiar with the fact that CBD does come from cannabis, or more commonly known as marijuana. And as you also probably know, cannabis has been illegal for the most part for most of the last century. In fact, it was 1938 when they first made it illegal and when they first came up with the word marijuana. Prior to that, it was just known as cannabis, and it was pretty commonly used all over the country. Now, because it was illegal, it also made it very difficult to get any kind of data on how cannabis works, on how it affects our body and our brain. However, a little bit of research was able to be completed, and that research actually showed a lot of promise. It turned out that cannabis wasn't just this drug that got people high and made them lose motivation. It also had a lot of potential medical benefits. And because of these medical benefits, some of the restrictions on cannabis are starting to be loosened. There are several states and countries now that allow for medical marijuana, and a few countries and states where recreational marijuana is also allowed. Most importantly, however, in my opinion, is that because of these loosened restrictions, we've been able to get more research and more data on what cannabis does to our brains and bodies. Now, this is really exciting because what they found is that there are all kinds of potential uses for this, things that they actually were doing over 100 years ago that we never realized because we just thought it was this drug. We didn't realize it was actually pretty much a medicine, right? This is an herbal supplement that has incredible potential. Now, a couple of things that are really important to know right off the bat. The first is that the part of cannabis that gets you high is called THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, right? THC gives you the high, and it also has some medical benefits. But that is different from what we are talking about here today. What we are here to talk about is CBD, or cannabidiol. So two really important things to keep in mind. One is that THC and CBD are extremely similar. They're both considered cannabinoids, which are compounds commonly found in cannabis. And because they are extremely similar, they do have a lot of the same effects on our brains and bodies. So a lot of that research, the early research showing that there are these potential medical benefits of THC, it actually applies to CBD as well. In fact, in at least a few cases, what they thought was the benefits of THC was really the benefits coming from CBD. Important fact number 2 to keep in mind is that CBD is not exactly the same as THC. There are some very small but very significant structural differences between THC and CBD. And as a result, there are some very important differences in how our bodies react to them. The biggest one, the most important one, is that CBD does not get you high the way that THC does, okay? You can extract a whole bunch of THC from cannabis and take that and you will get high. In fact, there is a drug made from it called Marinol. It's used to treat nausea and appetite loss from chemotherapy. All right. CBD is different though, because the THC will get you high, the CBD will not. That is so important. But because they are still similar, you get a lot of the same health benefits. So let's talk about where those health benefits come from. Why exactly are they happening? So there are these 3 receptors down here. They look like word salad, but they are CB1, CB2, and 5-HT1A. I'm going to talk about CB1 first. This is an endocannabinoid receptor found mainly in the brain. And what I mean by that is that it is a receptor that interacts with these cannabinoids in your brain. And here's how it works. Let's say that you have some nerve cells that are out of balance. There's an important concept in anatomy and physiology. It's called homeostasis, right? It's in biology, it's in ecology, it's all over. But the important thing is that it is basically balance, right? We always are looking for homeostasis in our internal systems. And when we lose homeostasis, when things get out of whack, we start to have different problems, okay? And it turns out that these endocannabinoid receptors, CB1 in particular here, is very important in maintaining homeostasis in the brain. Now, why that matters for CBD is because CBD is attaching to these receptors and having effects. More specifically, when CBD enters your brain and it attaches to a CB1 receptor, it tells the nearby nerve cells to either amp up or decrease their activity level, okay? So let's use a very specific example. Seizures, right? A seizure at a very basic level is overactive neurons that are firing nonstop, right? They're kind of stuck in the on position, which leads to all of the things that you see with a seizure. Now, theoretically, the way that this would work is if you took CBD, it would go into the CB1 receptors with around these overactive firing neurons, and it would attach to the receptors, and it would cause the neurons to decrease their firing rate, which in turn would decrease whatever is going on, in this case, the seizure. All right. So I'm not claiming that CBD can stop a seizure. I don't even know how you would get CBD into your system in the middle of a seizure. However, what we've seen both in the research and through anecdotal evidence is that taking CBD, having it available in your system ahead of time, decreases both the frequency and the severity of seizures. All right. This is not a claim. This is simply observations that we've seen in the research and in people's anecdotal experience. All right. That's very, very exciting. Okay. In fact, one of the most famous cases of this was a little girl named Charlotte who started taking basically a CBD product. It was a hemp oil, a CBD from hemp, and it took her seizures from multiple times a day down to very, very few. And it was just a big story. It blew up, and that was basically responsible for the initial popularity of CBD. Now, there's also receptors throughout the body that are almost identical to CB1. They're called CB2. They're mainly found outside of the brain, but they do basically the same thing. They help to regulate the firing activity of the neurons that surround them, that are attached to them. And CBD does the same thing, right? So let's look at a condition of overfiring nerve cells in the body. Chronic pain is probably the most common one. In fact, lower chronic back pain is the single biggest cause of missed work in America. All right, it's costing individuals, families, companies, and our country billions of dollars because they can't go to work. All right. The most common remedy for that currently used is opioids. And as you may know, just yesterday the White House declared a health crisis related to the amount of opioid abuse and overdose in our country. All right. People are dying in incredible numbers, and it's incredibly disturbing and tragic that it's happening because they want to escape this chronic pain, and it's totally understandable. And it's totally understandable that physicians and general practitioners who want to help their patients are prescribing this because it's the only thing they know to use. But what we are starting to see is that CBD, by going in, attaching to these CB2 receptors, can cause the neurons that are overfiring during chronic pain to decrease their firing rate, which in turn decreases the pain signal. Now think about that for a second. We have a totally natural molecule, CBD, without all of the terrible side effects that come with opioids, such as loss of ability to drive a car, the high that comes with it, the addiction that is just out of control, and the eventual overdose that happens so very frequently. All right, we get rid of all of that, and we still have the potential to decrease pain. All right, that is absolutely amazing, and it gets me so excited about the possibilities with CBD. But this is how it works, right? It's those CB2 receptors.